He's either got team orders or he's a dumbass. He's either got team orders or he's a dumbass.
Welcome to the Ashur Conrad Show. I'm your host, Ashur Conrad. Today's episode is sponsored in part by Disturbed Customs. Get your go-fast parts and accessories for all makes and models, performance engines, and more at Disturbed Customs in Sarasota, Florida. Or visit them on the web at disturbedcustoms.com. Today we're going to talk with Erik Miner. Erik and his father Ken had two vintage and very valuable cars stolen last week. One was a 1969 Chevrolet Camaro SS and the other was a 1966 Corvette convertible. Total value of the cars, which had been restored, was almost $100,000. Thankfully, both cars were recovered. The Camaro did have some extensive damage, but the Vette was not too bad. Erik, thanks for coming on the show.
You're very welcome.
How are you feeling right now? I mean, I'm sure you have been through a roller coaster of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Both my father and I have been through a roller coaster of emotions. I mean, early on it was disbelief, and then it was kind of pissed off, and then I guess excitement of having the cars returned. And now we're very thankful and very gracious to everyone that helped get the word out, and we're excited to have the cars back. And now we're just letting the legal process play out, which I understand is going to be a pretty long process, but we're happy to go through that and consider ourselves very lucky considering the circumstances.
Now, walk us through, if you would, when you first discovered the cars were gone, and talk about your emotions. And I'm sure you were stunned in a state of disbelief to some extent.
Yeah, a little bit. Mostly for my father. These cars were stored in a building. They were locked up, and we had quite a few cars in that area. And he went out to check on the cars, and he had been out there the night before and realized that both the 66 Corvette and the 69 Camaro were missing. And so I think he was upset. He was on the phone with the police, and I guess my mom called me, and my mom sounded like she was crying. I thought we had a family member that died, and she told me that the Camaro was stolen, and so and the Corvette were stolen. So yeah, it was pretty emotional, upsetting, mostly on the Corvette side of things, because that Corvette's been in our family since 1974, I believe. So it's about 35, 36 years. And it was my father's daily driver for about 10 years, because that's about all he could afford at the time was one car. And I've had my earliest childhood memory is actually going to a parking lot in a mall outside of Kansas City, and my father buying that car used, and I cried all the way home because I couldn't ride in the new yellow car. At the time, I had no idea, that it was a Corvette, and it was a really cool car. It was just a new car to me, but I was 2 years old at the time, and my older brother got to ride in that car. And so, thinking back on those memories, it was pretty upsetting. I know it was upsetting for obviously for my dad, who had so many memories in the car, but also for my brother. And he learned to drive a 4-speed on that car, and as did I. And when I talked to my brother about it a little bit, he had a few more stories that my dad didn't know about. Actually, he learned to drive on that car when he was 13, apparently, when my dad was out of town. So I don't know if that'll be new news to my dad or not. But,
the things that come up later on in life, huh?
That's right. Certainly a lot of memories. I was a little bit on the straight and narrow, so I only took the car with permission when I was after I was 16 or 17. But
well, you must have been allowed a lot of trust there. I mean, I don't know too many 16-year-old kids that let their parents, drive a Corvette, let alone a vintage one at that.
Absolutely, and my father's a really special guy. He did that with both my brother and I, and we had a lot of really good life lessons. And so when we turned 16, neither one of us had our own car. But we got keys to all the family cars, including the Corvette. But along with that came a lot of responsibility. And so I remember asking my dad if I could take the Vette on a Saturday afternoon. We could never drive them in the evenings, but I asked him if I could take it on the Saturday afternoon, and he asked me if his if his 300ZX had been cleaned yet, because he had asked me to do that. And I said, no, it hadn't. And I said, I don't know that I'll have time for it. And then he said, well, I don't know that I'll have time to let you pick that Corvette. So I learned quite a few lessons from my father, and many of them surrounded that Corvette.
Awesome. Well, I can certainly appreciate the fact that even though it's certainly an inanimate object, it sounds from the stories you just told me that it certainly has a lot of family sentimental value, and certainly to some extent some part of a member of your family.
Yeah, I think so. You're right. I mean, as I've been going through this process, one of the things that helped keep us grounded is I was reminding myself that this isn't a person, and I've never had anyone that's had a tragedy to a family member, but and I can't imagine what they're going through. But it's one of the things that I thought about, is that we're really fortunate that no one was hurt in the theft of the cars, and we were thankful for still having our family. And I just reminded myself that these are just objects, and well, maybe the memories of that Corvette couldn't have been replaced, and that exact car couldn't have been replaced, but certainly it could have been replaced.
That's a great outlook there on your part. You said the cars were locked up and kept away. So how do you think the thieves knew about the cars?
Well, we're not exactly sure. We're not exactly sure on how they knew about it. The individual that is in custody lives about within 5 miles of the location. So we're assuming that that they were aware that there were cars on the premises.
Now, are these? Do you think these are pros? Have they stolen cars before, or are they somewhat amateurs?
Well, I would probably say that they're amateurs. The individual is, I don't know if he's 18 or 19 years old, that they did arrest. And the police are looking in to see if they had accomplices. Just because there were 2 cars stolen, if you ask me, and I'm only a Barney Fife type investigator, they had to have more than just one individual to take these cars. I mean, common sense would say that they had somebody drive them there, and then 2 people driving the cars, since they were taken at the exact same time.
So they were hot wired?
No, they were keys around the vehicles, and they were able to start them with keys.
I see. So did they know the keys were there?
I'm not sure if they did or not. We haven't talked to them, and the police, while they've arrested this individual, they haven't completed their complete investigation, and so they've the Bella Vista Police, especially Officer Ed Williams and Mike Klugler, were just amazing throughout the whole process, and when they could share information with us, they did, and it was just amazing being kept in the loop that way. I mean, obviously, we've never had anything quite like this happen to our family, but those guys, both of them, I guess, are detectives, not officers, but they were first class, and tracked down leads from all over the country, and we're working on it daily. And the Bella Vista Police Department's a pretty small organization, and to put two detectives on the case, we're very thankful that they put that many resources in it.
Did they think the cars were going to be recovered? Did they offer you any hope? What were their thoughts about the situation when they first came on it?
Yeah, Detective Williams, interestingly enough, he said, well, I've got a hunch that those cars are still in northwest Arkansas. And both my father and I said, well, we think that these are some pretty valuable cars, and we were thinking right away that they were professionals, and gosh, they're going to end up overseas somewhere. They'll end up in Mexico, or they'll be chopped up and parted out. I mean, we just, when something like that happens to you, and you think a little bit about those types of things, and so we were just, I guess, bracing for the worst, and really, hope that we'd see the cars again. But didn't have a whole lot of hope that we would.
What was the single biggest thing that led to the discovery of the location of the cars?
I would say the media attention. When we first heard that the cars were stolen, I mean, we tried to get the word out through any way that we could. We started locally with classic car dealers, knowing that anyone that's honest and is involved in these classic cars, whether it's hot rods or originals or Corvettes or Camaros. I mean, the car community is kind of a bonding. Everyone's sort of bonded together. I mean, I think any Corvette enthusiast knows as they're driving along and they're in a Corvette and they see another guy or a gal in a Corvette. I mean, they're always raving. So we networked, and I would say that we probably contacted probably close to 200 groups. Again, starting locally with Corvette clubs, Chevy clubs, the different highway patrols in a 5-state area. And, of course, once we did that immediately, then we started reaching out nationally. And I've got to thank the Corvette Mafia News blog for helping us get that word out, as well as Hemmings Motor News, and Dan at Hemmings Motors News does a blog, and we had quite a few comments on those blogs, and people from all over the country saying, "Hey, we'll keep an eye out for you. We've got your back." And they said a few other things that once they catch the thieves, what they hoped happened to them. And I guess I can't really disagree with them, but
well, they used to hang horse thieves back in the old day. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, well, I guess I certainly wouldn't advocate doing anything that's not allowed. But if that was allowed these days, then I think it'd be all right.
Yeah. Now, can you tell me specifically how it was that the cars' locations were discovered? What was it that brought that into that? Brought the discovery to light? How did they know where they were?
Yeah, and I don't have all the details because the police haven't released all the details. But through some sort of a tip, they discovered first that the Corvette, I believe it was a property owner or someone around this particular property found these or saw the Corvette and let the Bella Vista police know. And where the Corvette was discovered, I mean, it was somebody would have had to have access to the land in order to see it, because it was in Bella Vista. There's some paved streets, and then just a little bit, could be the next road over, could be a gravel road that they haven't been developed, and it's a very wooded area. And there's a few hay fields around as well. So where the Corvette was discovered was off a paved road, and there was a farm gate there. And you'd open up the farm gate, and you'd drive probably about an eighth or a quarter of a mile. And then on the other side of this field, and it's not like a flat field. It's kind of a rocky field. There's an edge of trees and then a ravine. So even if you were standing up on the field, you wouldn't have been able to see the car. You would have had to walk to the edge of it and kind of look down this ravine.
Sounds like somebody knew where to put it at for the most part to keep it fairly well hidden.
Yeah, and of course, it's all speculation, but we have no idea what the intent was for it, other than maybe they stole it and didn't know what to do with it, so they parked it there. And I don't know if they were ever going to come back for it, if they were just going to, leave it in the weeds and let it rot. But,
right. Now, was it the property owner, the property owner themselves that contacted the police, or was it a neighbor?
We're unsure at this time. We just don't know.
Okay. You said you were fairly close. You lived fairly close to where the cars were discovered at?
Yeah, that actually my father does, and my father lives fairly close, as well as it was probably only about 2 miles from, maybe even less, maybe a mile from where the Corvette was stolen. And it's such a wooded area, and it's very